Hi again. We will continue talking about chapter 4, listening. We stopped at the list of red flags. We mentioned all the critical listening red flags, such as lack of evidence, unidentified sources, outlandish promises, guarantees, claims of exclusivity, and others. So, your oral critiques, if you hear those red flags, how are you going to present your concerns? Be constructive and supportive. Begin with something positive always. So if you're evaluating a classmate's speech and something raises a red flag, first talk about something that you really liked, and then go into things that you found problematic. Be very specific about them. Maybe remember, maybe take notes to mention what exactly you found problematic. Suggest a way to improve that. Be tactful, do not offend the person, and make it about the speech, not about the person. Make it about the information, not about the individual. And again, close your critique with something positive. How do we evaluate other people's speeches overall? We show commitment to listening and evaluating properly, ethically, carefully. Look at the adaptation of information. How is it adapted? The purpose of the speech, the freshness of facts, information, and the ethics. So, ethical consideration of evaluating speeches includes reasonable knowledge of the topic, responsible information gathering, respecting the audience, concerns about the impact of your speech, documented information, and the avoidance of inflammatory language. So if the speaker displays things that are opposite to what we listed, if the knowledge is irresponsible, if it's ungrounded, if the audience is treated with a lack of respect or less than proper levels of respect, if the speaker does not show concern about the impact of the words that are in the speech, if the information is not documented properly, and if the language includes inflammatory words or phrases, then it is unethical. So let's look at the substance of the speech. How do you evaluate the substance? And here is, again, a list that you can actually apply as a rubric. Is the topic worthwhile? Is the research proper? Is it sufficient? Are the main ideas supported? Is testimony used properly? Are the sources specified well? Are the examples and narratives used properly? Are the anecdotal passages used properly? And is the reasoning, the logic clear and correct? So let's take these 7 criteria and maybe use them as a rubric in the future when we evaluate speeches. How about the structure of a speech? If the introduction invites you to listen more, if the introduction previews the message, the content, it gives you an idea of what's it about, if it's easy to follow, if the main points are visible, evident, if the transitions are smooth and natural, if the conclusion summarizes the message properly and gives you something to remember, these are, again, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 points we can use as criteria to judge about the structure of a speech. And another 7 points to evaluate the presentation style, a good language, good use of language, extemporaneous presentation. It means that the speaker is not stuck looking at the page or the notes, but rather speaking to the audience, speaking with the audience, communicating and explaining things on the go. If the notes are unobtrusive, if the speech delivery is enthusiastic, expressive, if there is good eye contact and body language, the loudness and rate of the words, the flow are appropriate, the volume, the voice is appropriate, and the speaker is using effective presentation aid. I must say that a lot of times there is what we call a voice fry, vocal fry. It is when your speech pattern goes down in the pitch and just ends on a note that kind of makes you feel like you're out of breath, right? So that is extremely hard to listen to. Also, very hard to listen to a speech that stops every second. I know I may be doing that a little bit, but if I pause after each word, you'll feel that you're suffocating. So sometimes it is a part of your personality. It's nothing I can change in myself, in my manner of speaking. There are certain types of, different kinds of abilities, different speech apparati in people, and there's nothing you can do about it. You can accept it, or you can just avoid it, but you cannot criticize stuttering or the natural voice that the person's body is producing. And with that, you will have to listen ethically. So what are the guidelines for ethical listening? Paying attention is number one. If you're not listening and making off-topic remarks or comments or questions, especially critical comments that result from not knowing what the person is saying, that is unethical. Be open-minded. Put aside your personal biases. Of course, the speaker has to put aside personal biases as well. But if you notice something in the speaker, make sure that you're not speaking from your personal bias position. Provide feedback that is honest, that is sincere. Look for what you can use from the speech and consider the effects of the speech on others. So these are the principles of ethical listening. And finally, when you're listening to other people, do it as if you're listening to yourself. Listen to others as you would have them listen to you. If people are distracted, multitasking, if they're texting, if they're looking out the window, imagine yourself in their place. If you're the speaker, you don't want that. So please treat others the way you want them to treat you when it's your turn to make your speech. So we're very, very close to making our first speeches now, and I hope that this will give us something to work on while we're preparing it, and it gives me a list of things that I can put in the rubric, making the rubrics more detailed in order to evaluate your speeches properly. Thank you, and see you next time.